My name is Nate Dorman. I'm 19 years old from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I grew up in Savannah, Georgia for my first 8 years while my dad was a pastor in that area. And from that experience, just church every Sunday and being involved in my church as a kid and growing up, I decided to make that something that was my own, my relationship with Christ. Another big thing that was instilled in me from when I was young was surfing. My dad's a surfer, and he taught me. We'd go down to the beach and he'd push me into waves or get on like a boogie board or always around the ocean. And when I was in 7th grade, I went to a church camp down in Georgia where I used to live. And I remember one of my friend's dads, who's the pastor, praying for me, and he prayed specifically that I would have boldness and be courageous to share who I am as a Christian with the people who I'm contacting surfing. I went to a year of college in California, and there was able to surf a lot of great waves and studying in intercultural studies at a missions program at my school. And during the second semester, I began questioning what I'd been focusing on for my whole life was, or at least the last 8 years or so, is professional surfing and trying to go pro with that. My question was, has this been something that is just my desire, like a selfish thing to be a pro surfer for myself, or is this something that is really from the Lord, that He's given me as a passion and something to excel in and continue to use for His glory? After a few weeks of really praying through and wrestling within myself about that, some doors started opening to continue in the direction with surfing. And I had my pastor at my church. He was challenging me, and we were studying through and just trying to figure out what my next step was. And in talking to my parents, they were supportive of me. They just said, "Nate, you know, you hear from the Lord, and if you feel like surfing is where you need to go, then you need to go for it all the way." And I'm pursuing a passion and dream that I believe God put there in my heart, and I'm going for it with everything I've got. The first trip that summer, I came home for a couple weeks and then raised enough money to go over to Indonesia. And there I was with a nonprofit humanitarian group that uses surfing to reach people in like less fortunate communities and giving back as surfers. And through that, I got to meet a kid named Koman on the street. We were just surfing in Bali one day, and I met this kid in the water, and he's 15 years old. And as we began to become friends and he started to share with me who he is and how he grew up, I found out that he's an orphan. Both of his parents had passed away in a car accident, and he lives on the beach now, or wherever he can find a place to sleep. And I just really, my heart broke for him, and I really wanted to pour into his life and try to reach out to him in love like Jesus would, where he says, "Whatever you do to the least of these, you do it to me." And that came into my head, and I was just friends with the kid. And I took him up to where we were staying in Bali and was able to give him a Bible, and it was in his language, and he was asking questions about it, and just trying to share with him who Jesus was and is. And another thing that I was able to give him was a surfboard. I had a board that I gave him, and he didn't have his own board. He had like what he had on his back, and then I think he had a backpack stashed under some trees somewhere on the beach. And I was able to give him that board, and we took him surfing after that and continued hanging out with him. And later on in the week, he actually came to church with us, and I distinctively remember the sermon was about Christ as your father, how God's your dad. And this kid, Koman, who I became friends with, was sitting right beside me, and he just began breaking down, weeping and crying. And I just put my arm around him and was praying for him and let him know how much God loves him, and because of that I can love him, and was just pouring out to him. And it was awesome to see him responding to the message like that. And I pray that people have continued to pour into him since I've left, and I'm hoping one day to get back and see him. So I'm thankful for God just guiding me this year, for all of this traveling and surfing that I've gotten to do. And I'm looking forward to the next year to see what he continues to do in my life, and I pray that I would be used for his glory as a surfer around the world.